It's a little chilly here in Calgary, Alberta at the end of September. I'm not sure what the outside temperature is exactly, but I know that I feel chilly. I've got an idea. I'm going to open up my phone, power up my Vevor truck heater, and we'll go sit in my nice toasty warm truck. Yes! What's up, everyone? Welcome to Lowered Expectations. Thanks for lowering your expectations and hanging out with me here. I do appreciate it. In today's video, we are going to be installing and testing this Vevor diesel heater in my work vehicle. Those of you who follow my channel will probably know that last year I purchased one of these with my own money and spent the whole winter torture testing it. Two things were highlighted in that video series. One, there is no limits to my foolishness. And two, these things are extremely durable. So this year, we are going to be testing this in my work vehicle. I will probably be making some videos with the other heater as well, where we do some more torturing and experimenting. But this video and this video series is going to be installing and using this in my work vehicle. For those of you who don't already know, I am a mobile lawnmower technician. I drive around to people's houses and fix and service their lawnmowers. And it is currently September here in Calgary, Alberta. It is not terribly cold. We do have some warm days, but there is a little bit of chill and I have about 2 more months of work. So it would be really nice not to have to leave my vehicle running, be able to turn this thing on, keep my tools warm, keep my truck warm, and not have to worry about leaving my truck running with the keys in it. Because wouldn't I look stupid if I locked my keys in my truck at a customer's house and didn't have access to my tools? This is not going to be a detailed installation, although it will probably give you some ideas about how to do it to your own vehicle. Every installation is going to be a little bit different. Mine's going to be quirky because I'm actually planning on installing this in the back of the vehicle and making some holes in through, well, you'll see. If you guys are interested in purchasing one of these for yourself, there will be an affiliate link as well as a discount code in the description below. If you purchase one of those heaters, it helps me out as I get a small kickback, so that is much appreciated. I've received a few different items from Vevor. I've purchased several on my own, and I've always been quite happy with the way things are packaged. So let's pull some stuff out here and see if it is the same deal. We've got the manual. This has a little bit of information about vehicle installation, but I'm pretty sure for something like this, you need to watch some videos and figure it out yourself. And of course, always be safe. What do we got here? Okay, we've got some little vents. That's cool. I was wondering what would come in this package, and we do in fact have vents. By the way, the model of this heater is the XMZ or Z, depending where you live, -D1. The heater seems to be packed quite well. It is a nice orange color. Let's, I'm gonna flip this upside down and see if I can pull the box off of it. Hopefully that doesn't ruin anything. There we go. All right. As per usual, Vevor items are packaged quite well. It has this nice foam stuff. The heater itself has these handles on the case, which I guess are good for carrying it around if you're actually using this as a portable heater. Okay, we've got a little box of doodads there, and what do we have here? We've got a wire with a fused cable. So we've got our positive and negative to run to our power source. This particular one is supposed to have Bluetooth connectivity with an app for your phone. So this can control the heat, but because there's not actually an LCD screen on here, I wanted to get one that I could actually control with my phone. And so that is the one that I got. I'm assuming I'm gonna have to pick up some extra bits and pieces to actually do the installation on my vehicle because, well, it's not your average installation, and quite honestly, it would be silly of them to send along all of the pieces that you might need because, well, every vehicle is gonna be different, and if they sent you everything, then you would use about 5% of what they sent you, and the rest would just sit around or go in the trash. So we've got the large tube that goes on here. That's where the hot air comes out of the heater and goes into your vehicle. We've got the small tube, which is for the air inlet. We've got the exhaust, which is obviously for the exhaust. A little muffler, which quiets it down a little bit. And we've also got the air inlet. In this bag, we have some hose clamps, screws, different types of fasteners, and some little, what are these called? P-clips to hold down the hoses and the exhaust. As soon as I stopped that last clip, I realized that I showed you guys a quick glimpse of these pieces, but didn't really mention what they were or how they worked. So this is the part that will go through the wall of the vehicle, and the heater hose will hook up to the back of it here. So that will go into the hot air outlet on the heater. The hot air will come out of here, and a hose clamp will go on here, and then this will go on, and you can turn it to direct the airflow. So that's what that's all about. Let's pop the cover off, take a look inside, and see if it is basically the exact same thing as the one that I had last year, or if it is different. It looks to me like this is pretty much the exact same thing. In the attempts to be an honest reviewer, I just noticed something that I thought I would point out, and that is that the fuel line is kinked over. So this box shipped underneath here. I think this opening was supposed to be over the fuel line, but somehow the fuel line did get kinked. So that is not ideal. It is very easily repairable. There's lots of extra fuel line here, so you can just snip that off and put the new piece on. When I agreed to film this video for Vevor, I may have overlooked a few things, and that is I'm going to be filming the video in my garage with my truck in here, which means I have to have the door open. That messes with the lighting, and there's also going to be all sorts of background noise. Not only that, but I'm going to have to do the filming, most of it inside of here, because that's where the heater is going to be installed, underneath the canopy or cap for my truck. So I have one of these things installed. I am going to install the fuel tank, the diesel tank, right here, and that is because it's going to give me easy access when I'm filling up at the pump. This is where the gas goes into the truck, and so when I stop at the gas station, I will just have to open up this hatch on the side of my truck and fill up the tank right here, which makes it pretty handy. It'll keep me from having to climb into the back of the truck and fill it up directly. Before we go any further with this install, I just wanted to say that if you are going to install this in the case the way that it is here, all you need to do is hook a 12-volt power supply up. This wire has a sticker on it that says 12 volts, 15 amps. So that is the power supply that you would need, whether it is a actual power supply that plugs into the wall or a 12-volt battery. And then all you need to do is put fuel in it. The controller has the heat pickup in it, so if you were going to install this in a vehicle, you would want this inside of the heated area, and so you would have to actually run wires. I believe on eBay and different places you can actually buy extension wires, or you can make extension wires yourself. The one that comes with the heater is not very long, but it's not something that's terribly difficult to do. I am going to be pulling all of the components out. I'm going to be running the controller inside of my truck, and I have space underneath here to actually run the heater, and the fuel tank will be going in the side compartment as I showed you earlier. So now that that's all out of the way, I'm going to pull all of these components out of the case and start the install. After some careful consideration and reckless cutting and bending, I've decided to use the lower part of the inner case as the support or mount for the heater itself. What I've done is use some tin snips to cut off the top part of the case, so this used to continue up, and I've cut that off and then bent these over. Now what I'm going to do is drill a couple of holes in each side of this, 2 here and 2 here, and then I can mount this on the underside of my compartment at the front. Whew. Drilling in this position is not easy. Get the heater in place. Okay. I got another bolt down through this hole, and so now I'm going to get another nut on. I promise this will all make sense in just a little while. I'm sorry, Vevor, for cutting through your logo, but it's a necessary part of the build. Hopefully now this will all make sense to you guys. What I've been doing is making a retaining bracket or retainer for the fuel tank. So the fuel tank is going to sit right there. I've got a hole through the front here, which I'm not sure if you guys can see, but that is where the fuel outlet comes. And that's going to go right through there. I'm going to drill holes through there, and there will be a nut on the back side. And then I'll do the same thing here and here as well. So that's going to be pretty slick. I can still stack stuff up against it, like my boxes and whatnot. I could even put something on top of that if I want. It will be quite secure, and I just won't have to worry about it. I am about to tackle mounting the fuel pump, and I decided that I didn't like the idea of the rubber mount just squishing when you tighten the bolt. So I went through my jet ski parts and I found a little spacer thing. And now when I tighten the bolt, it will actually tighten up against the stainless steel piece. That might mean that this pump will actually be able to swivel a little bit, so I'll have to be careful to mount it in a way that that won't matter, or do something else to stop it from swiveling. I've decided I'm going to mount the fuel pump right here on one of the mounting feet locations. That will keep the fuel pump out of the way, give me plenty of room for a fuel valve and a fuel filter, and make for a nice short run to the fuel inlet, which will mean less line to get snagged and burnt. Alright, so I am going to put a valve. The valve is going to be in place just in case I ever need to change the fuel filter, or if I need to remove the heater. I'm going to need to unhook the fuel line, and it's going to be a pain in the butt if I don't have a fuel valve. So, got one of these. It's for a lawnmower. Now I'm going to install my filter. This is the one that I'm using. It is overkill. It is a very large filter, but The reason I'm using it is because it's see-through and I can see if any stuff is building up inside of it. And there's no harm whatsoever in putting a filter that's a little bit too big. All right, we've got this all sorted out. All I need to do now is install a zip tie. I think I will use a zip tie right here. This will stop things from flopping around in the breeze. Don't want to restrain things too much. They're more likely to break or chafe through in that way, but this should be perfectly fine. That's a perfect path. Out of the fuel tank, through the fuel valve, into the filter, into the fuel pump, out of the fuel pump, and into the heater. This is the air filter that comes with this diesel heater and most other diesel heaters. It has a very coarse mesh in it, and basically all it would stop is leaves or giant particles from getting into your heater. And although this is probably perfectly suitable, it doesn't really do much to filter the air. So this is a Tecumseh air filter. This is for a Tecumseh lawnmower. I have plenty of these as I am a lawnmower technician, and I just discovered something by taking this mesh out. I'm actually going to put it in with this air filter, but check this out. It fits in like it was meant to fit in there. All right, it fits a little more snug with the mesh, I will admit, but that's probably a good thing. It will seal up well. I'm probably not even in shot here, but look at that. Tecumseh air filter. I'm not going to try to do anything fancy here. I'm just going to get it mounted on there and use a couple of zip ties to hold this canister on so that it doesn't flop around and break the hose. Yeah, I'm through. Yeah, that was that was way more aggressive and way more easy than I expected it to be. I bet you guys thought I was going to throw these down through that hole, didn't you? I'll throw one piece. There we go. Just to make you guys happy. I decided to use the fuel tray out of the diesel heater to make this heat baffle thing, whatever you want to call it. Basically, to put around here, I still need to cut down one side before I'm finished, but basically I used the tin snips to cut this down to size, drilled a hole in it, and now I'm going to cut it so that it lines up. I suppose I could bend it. I've now got a bend in this, and so it comes up the wall a little bit. It'll offer some heat protection in that corner. Instead of just screwing this plate directly to the wood and allowing the heat to transfer from the plate into the wood, I found these 3/16 pop rivet washers. I've got these small aluminum ones that will sit directly against the plate, and these larger stainless steel ones that will sit against the wood. And that will create an air gap, but not only that, if the plate does get hot, the heat transmission area is a lot less because of the small washer, and then any heat that does get dissipated through will contact the wood in a larger area, which will spread the heat over a larger area and hopefully not cause any single hot spot and burn up the wood. Now for installing the actual exhaust tube, this bit could get a little bit tricky. I'm not sure where I should put the muffler. We're gonna have to install it up here and then kind of go underneath and see how much pipe we actually have to work with, and yeah, where it makes the most sense. So put the hose clamp on. Get that down through there. Get the fuel line out of the way. Push that up into place. Realize that I quite flukily actually got the hose clamp on the right way, and be very pleased with myself. Now let's go take a look underneath the truck and see what we're working with. This is the back wheel of my truck, and this is where the muffler's hanging. I don't want to just leave it dangling around like that, so I'm going to come up with some way to attach it, I think, to this fender, I guess we'll call it. I could make an L bracket off of the fender, or I could use this existing bolt here. I'm doubting that will come out. It's probably rusted in there. It is a brand new day. Yesterday I got the fuel tank installed with a bracket. I got the fuel line installed, fuel valve, fuel filter, fuel pump, the heater itself on a bracket hanging underneath right there. I'm not sure if you guys can see that because of the lighting. I got the exhaust installed, and I believe the last thing I showed you guys was me saying that I was going to make a bracket. Well, I did indeed make a bracket, and this is what that looks like. This is the bracket that I made out of a piece of metal. I bolted it to the top of this bolt because I couldn't actually get the bolt out. It was seized. And now the exhaust is very secure. So the only piece I actually had to make here was this bracket that is bent 90 degrees. I used the P clamp or whatever they call that, and all of the other pieces from the kit. So the exhaust is very secure now. I am happy with that. It's not pointing back at the tire, so it's not going to get a bunch of junk in it. And it is also not pointing at anything that it's going to burn. What we need to do today is install the vent and the vent hose so that the heat from the heater can actually get into the cab of the truck. I'm going to make the vent come out just below my tools. That way my tool bag and my tool rack in the back of the truck will stay nice and toasty, and the rest of the inside of the truck won't get a direct blast of heat, so it won't be unbearable if somebody's actually sitting in the truck. It'll just warm up the whole cab. We also need to do the wiring, so I'm going to lengthen the wiring harness so that I can run it through into the truck. So let's get to it. The only hole saw that I have that is the correct size for this vent coupler, or whatever you call this thing, is a wood hole saw for cutting wood. So I'm hoping that this is going to work. If it doesn't, I'll have to come up with something a little more creative. Either way, we're going to put a hole, and it's going to be about this size. Time to get a file and touch up these edges so that I don't sever a finger. I've come across something else that's a little bit annoying, and I thought I would tell you guys about it. So they give you this nice vent with a vent cap, and if you were just using this, it wouldn't be a problem. So what I was going to do is put some screws in here and then put some glue on it to stop it from rattling around. It turns out the glue in my case is going to be 100% necessary because that's all that's going to be holding the vent on. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to use the vent cap. The reason for that is where the screw holes go through. I'm not sure how well this will show up on camera, but where the screw holes are, if you put a screw in there, you're not actually going to be able to get the vent cap on. I am aware that you can buy all sorts of different piping kits and vent kits for these heaters, and that is definitely an option. If I was running the heater in any other place than where I am, I would probably have to buy extra vent tube because mine is just barely long enough, and it is fairly close to where it's actually going through into the cab. So that is something to keep in mind. This, ladies and gentlemen, is my secret weapon. Don't act like you're not impressed. The hose clamp is in there. I'm sure the camera won't be able to pick it up very well. But yeah, I'm gonna have to reach in there with my giant extension and get that sorted out. If I'm very lucky, I will actually be able to use the wiring for the fifth wheel. There is a plug down here you guys probably can't see. So I wired up this plug for a 7-way connector onto 2 of the pins that is supposed to power, what do you call it? The accessories or charge a battery in your trailer. So I'm plugging that in there. We've got the controller. This is just going to be a quick test. If this works, then I'll permanently wire everything up. Plug in the fuel pump so that we don't get an error if it does work. And then the last thing is to plug this connector into the body of the heater itself. And that lines up there. And we have nothing. What should have been a fairly straightforward wiring job turned into a bit of a headache. I have had wiring troubles with this truck for several years and have never been really driven over the edge to figuring out what the problem was. I purchased this truck from Megan's dad, and he had been told that the truck would only put out 12 volts at the 7-way plug through the charging circuit or whatever it is when it detected a charge, and when the alternator was... He got told some story, and I never really bought it, but I never really looked into it because I understood that the problem had been there since the time that he had it. And what I kept doing is I would plug in a very light load, and all of a sudden the voltage would drop from 12 volts to like 3.6 or something like that, or 12.5 to 3.6. Anyway, I got looking. I finally found, I think, what the problem is, and it goes all the way back to when the trailer package was put on this truck, or at the factory. I think it was probably a factory option. We're now underneath the truck. If you couldn't tell, this is the 7-way plug that goes to the trailer, and this is the 7-way plug that actually comes from the fuse box and from the signal lights and all that. This is an adapter harness for a fifth wheel trailer, and what this does is it splits it to go to the 7-way plug here and also up front where I'm trying to connect to the power. So I doubt that the camera will be able to pick up on this at all, but this is a bent pin. The pin that's at the top is bent up. That is the 12-volt pin. Here is the connector. I'm going to plug that in there, and hopefully this turns on. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, that's a good feeling. All right, I'm going to turn the power on, but then I'm going to turn it off right away. I just want to see if the fan cycles and all that stuff.
Start heating.
Oh, it talks to me. There goes the fan.
Stop heating.
All right. Turns up.
Thanks for using. I wish you a safe journey.
Oh, that's cute. It talks to you. Okay, so now I need to lengthen this harness and put it inside of the truck and tidy up some of this wiring, so I will come back when all that stuff is done. It seems like we're just gonna have to deal with airplanes in this clip and probably some passing traffic, so I hope you guys don't mind. The install of the Vevor heater is completed. It all went quite well, and I have tested it, but we'll get on to that in just a little bit. The install went quite well, other than the electrical gremlins. Probably the hardest part was, for me, figuring out where to install it, and then next actually drilling the holes, because I didn't have the correct tools to do that. You would think that a guy like me would have those tools, but in fact I don't have giant metal hole cutting tools. So Yeah, anyway, I could have used a jigsaw or a number of other tools, but I decided to use wood hole saws, and as you can imagine, it didn't go quite well. So the most important part of this heater install is that the vehicle is still functional. This is my daily work truck, and it has to function as a work truck or it's no good to me. So I'm going to show you guys really quickly the install and yeah, what I got going on here. We will start with the inside of the truck. You're not going to be able to see a whole lot probably because of the lighting, but there is the controller on the dash. I don't like that it runs in 24-hour time. I'm too stupid to figure that stuff out, so I wish it was a 12-hour clock. Maybe there's a way to change it, but I haven't figured that out yet. The fuel tank is in here. It's very accessible. Again, my fuel cap is there. I have put fuel in it. You can see the level marks on the side of the tank here, and I've got all of the rest of my stuff back into the truck. I had to reorganize stuff a little bit, but everything fits in there. Door closes up nice, and so that is dandy. In the back of the truck, there is so much stuff piled in here that you guys aren't going to be able to see the heater at all. But the important thing is that all of my supplies and tools fit in here, and I'm still able to slide out in and out, and the heater doesn't interfere with any of that stuff in any way. The heater really wouldn't be of much use if after I installed it I couldn't actually use my truck as a work truck, so this is definitely a big win. I was quite concerned that the app would be very hard to use or the controller would be hard to use, but it turns out that the app is actually remarkably easy to use, very straightforward. I will do a screen recording for you guys and show you how easy it is actually to use. The downloading of it, there is one of those barcode things in the user's manual. You take a picture of it and you can open it. That's a train. That's gonna do it for this video because we are already over half an hour, but what I'm going to do is very shortly I will post a second video where I demonstrate the use of the app as well as use the heater for the first time. I've been using the heater for about 2 weeks now on my work truck, and although it isn't terribly cold yet here in Calgary, Alberta, it is very nice to have. It has been working flawlessly. The app has been working flawlessly. I did use the remote control, the handheld remote control, a few times just to verify that it worked. But quite honestly, the app is so easy to get. It connects every single time. It has good range. There is no reason in my mind not just to use the app. It works flawlessly. Before downloading the app from the App Store, I noticed that it only had a 2.5 or 3-star rating, and I'm not sure why that was so crazy low. So maybe they have a different version, or maybe they're expecting it to maybe, I don't know, read your horoscope, do your banking, and be an online dating service. Either way, mine works flawlessly and I can absolutely recommend it. I can also recommend one of these heaters. I have torture tested one in the past, and the times that I got it to fail by burning waste motor oil and all sorts of other crazy things, it was very easy to work on. The parts are affordable and they are easy to get. They're readily available. So that is all good. If you are going to install one of these, you have to take it upon yourself to make sure you do the wiring properly. You have to run the exhaust properly and make sure that you don't burn your car down or poison yourself with carbon monoxide. That is on you. As I've already stated, I will shortly be posting a video of me demonstrating the use of the heater and demonstrating the app. Once that is uploaded, there will be a link in the description below. You will also be able to find an affiliate link for one of these heaters down there, as well as the link to my other channel. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, feel free to go check it out. That's gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. A big thanks to Vevor for sending this heater along. It is awesome. I am gonna be toasty warm this winter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.